What does Piaget mean when he says that children move through stages of cognitive development? And why are these stages still taught in psychology and education courses today? The short answer is that Piaget believed children do not simply become smarter by adding more information. He argued that the structure of thinking itself changes over time, and that these changes can be described as a sequence of qualitatively different stages. His four-stage model remains one of the most widely recognized frameworks in developmental psychology because it gives a clear map of how reasoning develops from infancy to adolescence. Piaget's four stages are the sensorimotor stage, the preoperational stage, the concrete operational stage, and the formal operational stage. These stages are usually presented in a fixed sequence, meaning that children move through them in order, even if the exact timing varies across individuals. Britannica's summary of Piaget's theory also presents this four-stage sequence, with the classic age ranges from infancy through adolescence and adulthood. Piaget's central idea was that each stage represents a different way of organizing experience and solving problems, not just a different amount of knowledge. The first stage is the sensorimotor stage, which runs from birth to approximately age 2. During this period, infants learn through sensory experience and physical action. They explore the world by looking, grasping, reaching, sucking, pushing, and repeating actions. One of the most important developments in this stage is object permanence, which is the understanding that objects continue to exist even when they are no longer visible. This idea is foundational in Piaget's model because it shows a shift from immediate perception to mental representation. In other words, the child begins to understand that reality is not limited to what is directly seen in the moment. The second stage is the preoperational stage, typically from about age 2 to 7. In this stage, children develop symbolic thought, which means they can use words, images, and pretend play to represent things. Language expands rapidly, and imagination becomes much more visible. At the same time, Piaget argued that preoperational thinking still has important limitations. Children may show egocentrism, meaning difficulty taking another person's perspective, and they may focus on one aspect of a situation at a time, a tendency later discussed as scent ration. Their reasoning is not yet fully logical in the way older children's reasoning becomes. The third stage is the concrete operational stage, usually around ages 7 to 11 or 12. Here, children begin to think more logically about concrete objects and observable situations. They become better at classification, ordering, and understanding relationships between things. A classic milestone associated with this stage is conservation, which is the understanding that quantity can remain the same even when appearance changes. For example, a child in this stage can understand that the same amount of water remains the same when poured into a different shaped container. This stage represents a major shift because the child can now perform mental operations, but these operations are still tied to concrete situations rather than abstract possibilities. The fourth stage is the formal operational stage, which begins in adolescence and extends into adulthood. Piaget described this stage as the emergence of abstract and hypothetical reasoning. In formal operations, individuals can think about possibilities, test hypotheses, and reason systematically about problems that are not directly tied to immediate concrete objects. This is the stage most closely associated with scientific reasoning in Piaget's framework. It includes the ability to consider what-if scenarios, compare multiple possibilities, and work through complex logical relationships using symbols and abstract concepts. One of the most important things to understand about these four stages is that Piaget was not only describing what children know, but how they know. Two children may both answer a question correctly, but the reasoning process behind the answer may differ depending on developmental stage. This focus on the structure of thought is one reason Piaget's theory had such a large impact on developmental psychology. It changed the field's attention from simply measuring correct answers to analyzing the developmental logic behind children's responses. Piaget's stage theory also became highly influential in education because it encouraged teachers to match instruction to developmental readiness. If a concept requires abstract reasoning, for example, Piaget's framework suggests that younger children may struggle not because they are unmotivated, but because the cognitive operations required are still developing. This idea helps shape approaches to curriculum, classroom expectations, and the interpretation of student errors, especially in early childhood and elementary education. At the same time, the four-stage model has been heavily discussed and criticized in modern psychology, and these critiques are important. Researchers have argued that development can be more gradual and less stage-like than Piaget proposed, that children sometimes show abilities earlier than he expected when tasks are redesigned, and that social context, language, and culture may play a stronger role than his original model emphasized. These critiques do not erase Piaget's contribution, but they do change how his theory is taught today. In many university courses, Piaget is presented as foundational, while also being compared with newer findings and alternative frameworks. So why do Piaget's 4 stages still matter? They remain useful because they offer a structured way to think about cognitive development as a process of transformation, not mere accumulation. The model gives students a clear conceptual map. Infants build knowledge through action, young children develop symbolic thought, older children become logically competent in concrete contexts, and adolescents develop more abstract reasoning. Even when modern research revises parts of this picture, Piaget's 4 stages continue to provide one of the most influential starting points for understanding how human thinking develops. If we use Piaget's stage model carefully today, the goal is not to force every child into a rigid timeline, but to ask a better developmental question. What kind of thinking is becoming possible at this point, and what kind of support helps it grow? That question is one of the reasons Piaget remains central to psychology and education.